All right, there's a lot to be gained from looking at the VCE exams because they let you know how all the students went. So first of all, back to God mode again. If VCE can't get it right, well, I guess none of us can. None of the other states don't have a hope. They managed to completely screw up 2 questions. So 20 and 1A are just a write-off and everyone gets a mark. There is quite a good question on question 10. Now, first of all, I note that all these questions are pretty easy, but we've got lots of 40%. I'm basically going anything less than 40% of people got correct. But if you look at these questions, they're really quite easy, and it's a bit of concern how low the scoring is. Now, for this one here, it's quite good. You should know, because it's like products over reactants, that it definitely must. A is definitely okay. So that should lead you suspicions why B might be correct, but that didn't seem to be the case in this one. So that's a good question to do. I'm not going to put these questions in the website. I don't know if they're hard enough to put into the special section of exam prep, but you could have a look at that one there and have a good look at it. What else? I've made a note of ones that I think are significant. This one, if you're my student, you better be good at this by now, because we do the spectrophotometer. I know this is not QCEE, but it is. It doesn't really matter. It's high pressure liquid chromatography, but it's the same deal. A standard curve. Read it off. Don't forget to screw up the units. So many people got that wrong, which is a little bit sad. So moving along. That's the screw up there was basically they did a spelling mistake, so it wasn't an amigo acid, which is a bit of a small one. I was a little bit concerned by the time I got to this stage about how little chemistry there was, and it's just heaps of memorization of facts and didn't seem to be much chemistry, which is sort of emphasized a lot more. This one was an absolute classic. The word incomplete combustion was in the question. So using the word incomplete combustion to justify your answer was not satisfactory, which is scary enough in itself, because that should never be you saying the option. What they suggested was you write incomplete oxidation, and that's sufficient, but really that's not sufficient either. You're meant to show that because it's incomplete combustion, that the reactants, let me just go to the answers here. Here, the second mark was awarded student identified being to incomplete oxidation. You're not allowed to say combustion because that's already in the question, but this is a completely unacceptable answer anyway. You should be saying that because the reaction is incomplete, that there is still energy stored within the bonds of the products, and they haven't all been released and converted to heat kinetic energy. So it shows a complete lack of understanding. First of all, the students got it wrong almost. So you only got an average of 0.5. 60% of students got absolute zero. Even the ones that did get it right, which is almost no one, it's like 10%, they're not showing an understanding either, because that mark scheme is insufficient. It doesn't show you understand the chemistry. So that's a whole theme, I'd say, for both the scores that these students got and the quality of the answers that are acceptable. So you're going to have to lift your game if you're in Queensland. Hopefully, they're not going to accept that sort of answer. So moving on, I think the last thing is this one. What's scary about this one is it again shows almost no understanding, and that seems to be acceptable as an answer. So if I just jump down to this answer here for 9, there is no requirement, even when it says the fourth here, the fifth mark is awarded for recognition of voltages needed for the reactions to take place. Example, during electrolysis, the voltage supply should be high enough for the oxidation of copper metal, but not. So in none of this answer is there ever a recognition of the numbers. So the numbers are significant because if they're very close to each other, then it's actually the concentration that's going to be more significant. So I need to know exactly how different these numbers are from each other. I also need to see the half equation, so to prove to me, and the values to prove as evidence that is actually going in whatever direction it's going. And the numbers are also significant also because they're in such low concentrations. the reaction is not going to occur because there's not enough of it. And that's not mentioned there at all either. So as I've said before, word answers are the worst answers. The most accurate answers are when you actually get the numbers. So the less English and the more numbers is always the better science. And they've really gone for a lack of understanding here about the effects of concentration and actually the effects of how different the numbers are and what the numbers are that are required. So you could have just written all these word answers and got full marks. And then the terrible thing about all this is that the average is 1.2 out of 5. So really quite shocking, to be honest. So I think there's a little bit to learn from there. First of all, you really don't get too stressed out. Some of the questions are just going to be so bad, they're either going to get written off or you're going to get 1 mark. And the second thing is you really got to lift your game and show an understanding of chemistry rather than these vague sentences. They seem to have lacked an understanding of how effective both concentrations are to this question. It's been completely missed. And also the values of the voltages, how different they are from each other, will also relate to how this system works. All right, so I think there's quite a lot to gain from that. I don't think that's any of those questions I'm going to register to give you, though. I actually think the Queensland test is much, much more harder than this one. And hopefully we get higher marks, a higher percentage getting higher marks too. All right, see you later.